In today's episode, we'll talk about the grift, which is marketing agencies. I am Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. When the economy is bad, the business opportunity of starting your own marketing agency is rampant. Now, what does this do? First off, it gets a lot of rank amateurs in the business competing with you. It's the pitch of you can start your own marketing agency. Businesses are struggling right now. They need you to help them. You don't need any experience. You don't need any knowledge. You don't need anything other than a computer or a cell phone, and you will help businesses grow. That pitch is invalid in this, or insincere in the sense that if you don't have the skills to advertise for somebody, you'll have to get them from somewhere, and you'll end up paying a lot of money to whoever pitched you before you get a chance to apply those same skills to customers. And so if you already have the skills, yes, it makes sense to start a marketing agency in a bad economy or to grow an agency in a bad economy. But if you don't have the skills, then how will you promote yourself? So it's the kind of business op that sets up the open loop. The open loop is filled by a service that the person who pitched you is offering, and then ultimately you drive down wages in the industry because they're going to tell you almost every time, start by working for free. This is horrible. First off, you got somebody who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. Working for free for somebody who's spending precious marketing dollars on trying to get new customers, and they're working with somebody who's trying to learn a business, and ultimately the small businesses fail. Personally, I think it's a conspiracy of these biz ops to support big businesses by putting a bunch of rank amateurs out there serving small businesses. Now, because the client has experienced this garbage or a lot of bad experiences associated with marketing or advertising, like they're spending a lot of money and it's not working, it makes it more difficult for you who can use the principles of copywriting to help customers derive clients. And so here's what we got. You know that the three key inputs to a marketing campaign are going to be the customer avatar, the core products, and some kind of sales story. It's not the only things that go into a campaign, but they're necessary. If you start talking to a client and they don't know about these things, and they're just like, hey, I'm going to give you some money and you're going to give me way more money back because all of these little amateurs in the marketplace, which I don't know that they're amateurs, are promising me the moon, it's not going to work out very well for you. So you may find that in a bad economy, there's way more people coming into the marketplace that are kind of muddying up the waters, and so we have to take a different approach when it comes to serving clients. Now, I have a strategic marketing model that I'll give you highlights on here, and we've talked about it in other places, but essentially, you've got to be the advocate for the client and help them travel through this very treacherous road of rank amateurs. They're in every day. Folks in India and a lot of these low-wage countries are just begging me to do work as far as like change out my Google Analytics. Pretty much every time a new tool launches, there's people who are experts in the tool who are just spamming my email, and I'm sure they're spamming a lot of your clients to offer them these magical solutions that are going to increase their business. Now, again, if they can bilk $1,000 a month out of somebody, the customer's not going to figure it out for 6 months. Now, why is it? Well, it's because the marketing agency makes promises that can't be verified. So there's another factor, and this is where you come in. You're like, hey, I understand you've not had good experiences with marketing agencies, and maybe you've tried to do it yourself and it still didn't work out. You may not be aware that unless you're testing, a lot of marketing is going to fail and you won't know why. And so let me teach you testing methods. Let me introduce you to tools that test. Now, the marketing agency is going to say, hey, look, of all the impressions we got you. So a lot of these grifter agencies, and I call them that right out. A lot of people are not going to be happy. A lot of these scam agencies are going to use metrics that are difficult to verify. So, for example, they're going to say, look at the engagement that we brought you. Hey, you gave us $1,000 and we gave you engagement and it's worth billions of dollars, because they have these weird measures that they use for engagements. If you had to buy that, we got your organic engagements at your website, and if you had to buy those engagements, it would cost you X dollars. Well, they did buy those engagements because they paid the consultant to help them do that, or they paid the marketing agency to help. They use impressions. Look at all the impressions you've got. And then they'll derive the impressions into like a CPA measure. Now, I'm telling you these things so that you don't use these scam methods because, again, the client can't verify the work. Now, I take a position where I come in and help clients audit their marketing agency, audit their social media people, audit the folks that are working, because I focus on measures that you can have some meat in the game, some understanding. You can make decisions on it. We'll talk about some of those in a second. What's another scam measure that marketing agencies use? Well, they use the word exposure. They say, look, we've got you exposure to new markets, new demographics. Hey, you wanted to get in and engage. What's your share of market? Now, again, these are measures that you can make up, give to the client, and if the client says they're too high or they're too low, you can have a ready excuse available. So let's say the scam marketing agency comes in and says, look, we've gotten you exposure to this demographic, and according to our surveys, they're more likely to choose your product over any other product. A savvy business owner is going to say, okay, well, how much more income do we have? How many more sales do we have? How many more customers do we have in our funnel? And the scam agency is going to say, oh, no, this is more meaningful because it's worth X number of dollars in the marketplace. We got you this exposure. You've reached 40 billion zillion eyeballs. And if we had a penny for every eyeball that we reach, you'd have $1 million. And a smart business owner is going to say, well, I don't have $1 million. Yeah, that's why I hired you. I want the $1 million. What you're going to deliver is leads and sales. Now, why is leads a good measure? So that's somebody who's come to a website and they raise their hand and say, give me more information about this product or service. Or they raise their hand and they say, yes, I'll receive your free email newsletter. And then everything you give them after that point is designed to produce a sale. And then, of course, a sale is transactional. And so we'll start there. When a sale is produced, we can see it in our analytics, and we can also see it in our bank account. And that way it's verified. It's what we call that parallel measure. And so the client can now know, if you come in and say, hey, look, we got you 5 more sales, they can verify that. And it's actually a much more positive loop because they're going to attribute the value of those sales to you, and they did the measuring of the value. Now, of course, if they're producing sales that are not generating as much revenue as their what they spent, a lot of advertising agencies will say, hey, you spent $5,000 with us and you made $10,000 in sales, talking about the gross number. And that can be deceptive, but it's more truthful than talking about impressions, engagement, exposure. Do you see where we're coming from here? Now, your clients have been beat up, battered, abused by very savvy agencies that can pull the wool over a client's eye because the client is not well informed. One of the things that I've done is help the clients be more informed about what kind of marketing generates sales. Now, there are times where they want to boost their brand. They want name recognition. Now, name recognition is perceived to have value in generating leads or generating sales. It does not. But ultimately, if that's what the client wants, that's a public relations activity. That's a making sure you show up in places. And there are strategic values in this because sometimes showing up in cheap advertising media that doesn't work, but in a way that's visible to your competitors, can draw your competitors into that wasteful channel while you go and mine in a more profitable channel. Now, I sometimes believe that these BizOp folks are working for the big corporations because they're going to get a bunch of rank amateurs out there in the marketplace doing advertising services, very much offering them for free or for very low price because that's what their guru told them to do, to get into the market, do it for free. And this is going to taint the pool of potential clients for good agencies like yourself or good freelance copywriters or marketers who are building an agency. And the only company that wins is the big company. So if you take the approach that, look, there's a bunch of advertisers out there, there's a bunch of marketing agencies, there's a bunch of marketing channels that are vying for your attention and trying to get you to give them a try, but do you have the tools to give it a try? Because what is it would you rather try or would you rather test? Now, the benefits of testing is that we can do something and then know something as a result of doing it. So if we do an A/B split rather than just putting a banner ad up someplace, if we do an A/B split, we'll know which appeal has more interest. If we then look at the composition of the leads generated from the ad, we can tell of these leads which look most like our customers. Then when we make offers to the leads, we're not having to pay the advertising platform again, because see, the advertising platform is working with the agencies to try to get more advertising revenue. But the business is not in the business of giving someone money, it's in the business of growing. And so you can show that the leads that you have, those composition of leads that become sales, is different than the overall pool of leads. So we want to get more leads that produce sales than leads that don't do anything. It's like getting tire kickers and folks that are just browsing vehicles at a car lot versus folks that are ready to purchase vehicles at a car lot. Now, I'm advocating you take the route, the high ground. I'd rather you help a client audit or know what works and what doesn't than going in there and pulling the wool over their eyes. It is very easy to trick clients because, again, they're often very desperate to get any kind of sales that they can get. They don't understand the fundamentals of marketing, and they're really into the problems of their business, and they've made a decision to just hand off the marketing to someone else. Now, if that marketer goes in, it's a tough economy, and every time their campaigns fail, rather than learning something from testing, they say, oh, it's just a bad economy. Or, basically the joke about advertising agencies is that they take credit for the successes and they blame someone else for the failures. This doesn't serve the client. Now, you can make money doing that. You can charge very high rates. You can say, look at these logos that we created. Look at these brands we've created. You can write white papers that justify brand advertising, that justify impressions and engagement, and even teach how to measure that kind of stuff. But a mid-sized business really cares about how many sales did we produce and what's the net revenue produced, so the profit per sale. Again, business opportunists put a lot of rank amateurs in the marketplace. Large advertising channels like Google and Bing and those platforms are teaching things that generate more income for them. Small businesses are so busy doing their everyday activities that they don't know how to market. So as an advocate for the business or an advocate for the client, you know what inputs are necessary to even start thinking about a marketing campaign. More importantly, you're working in marketing campaigns rather than one-offs, because a campaign facilitates testing. But you're saying to the customer, look, let's get you started with a customer avatar. Who are we trying to get in as customers? Now, why do we want customers rather than exposure to the marketplace? Well, exposure doesn't tell us anything. It just tells us that they saw us. You can stand on a street corner and twirl a sign around and they'll see you, but it doesn't mean that the percentage of people out in the market, and I think Dan Kennedy does a good way of explaining it. He talks about the part of the circulation that doesn't care to see what you have to offer. And as you determine who cares, you can find media that has a higher percentage of people that care. So if you spend $1 for advertising, you're not exposing yourself to 10,000 people who just are random. You can spend $1 of advertising reaching the 10 or 15 that care. Now you can spend more money to get a customer, and because you can spend more money to get a customer, it makes it harder for your competitors to compete. Now that's just the really high level of what Dan Kennedy talks about. There's other folks like Joe Sugarman and Gary Halbert, and these folks have a definition of a buyer, and by focusing on the definition of a buyer, you're more efficient with your marketing dollars. So shift the client towards efficiency of marketing dollars, focus on customers who can purchase, getting leads so that you can measure the performance of the ad campaign, and then from those leads, going behind the scenes, kind of the under the radar advertising, so that you can make offers and then get sales. One of the things that works really well is because a lot of people who don't understand what they're doing just copy off of someone else, is you can go to that client and ultimately show them how that they can start advertising under the radar. And this worked really well for me for a while. Is explaining the behind the scenes. How can you target specific buyers, and so your competitors can't easily copy your marketing? And I'll give you just one last example before we wrap up here. When a visitor comes to a website and you cookie them so that you can retarget and invite them back to the website, that has value because now you put a lot of dollars with people who've been to your website before. Now, it's more important if you put that pixel after the lead conversion so that you're targeting leads that have come to your website, people who have opted in for something. But this makes more sense than spending more money on a banner ad or a pay-per-click campaign that's seeing a general demographic. So that funnel's very important. Russell Brunson has done very well talking about the funnel. We want to funnel customers we want to funnel the prospect to become a customer so that we know something about the buyer and we can get more of them. Now, the last option is to just try to do business with people who already understand direct response, who already do accountable advertising. And I'm going to say there aren't enough people out there. There aren't enough businesses out there because when a business gets desperate, they'll try to get anybody in to help them. And you might think, hey, well, that's fine. I'm going to help them. But if they don't know how to measure, if they don't understand the terminology, if they don't understand the value of focusing on profitable customers, and that's a whole different level that I go into when I do business development, then that customer is going to be hard to keep. That client is going to be difficult to keep because every new shiny object that comes along, every new tool that's launched, every new promise that they get from somebody who doesn't know how to deliver the promise, every new just distraction is going to make them doubt your ability to help them. In a normal marketing campaign, 98% of what you do does not work. But you don't know which works and which doesn't if you aren't testing. And so testing requires a direct response from an end user or the prospect, and it requires analytics, and it requires tools that are beyond just writing the words on a page. Even testing headlines has some math to it that it makes it more meaningful. You can't just do an A/B split on a headline. You need to know that you had enough samples that the results that you're getting are worthwhile. If you want to be in that world of direct response, you will have longer-term clients. You'll have better, more measurable results. You'll be able to know what works and what doesn't, and you'll be able to dial in an organization so that they're consistently producing profits. And you'll get paid more, by the way, because you'll get paid more than once. A lot of these rank amateurs can come in and get paid once, but they don't build a business because they can't stay engaged. They can't stay in the interaction with the customer because the customer gets angry. Now, that doesn't mean that some of these folks that entered into the marketplace as a biz op and they didn't have any experience and now they have experience aren't going to do good and they aren't going to be good marketers or good advertising agencies. But again, while they're cutting their teeth, they're lowering wages, they're creating confusion, and the only way to overcome it is this strategic marketing model that I've talked about in the past, and it's really about how do we help that customer streamline, organize, and improve the efficiencies of getting new business? And then is that business profitable? And can we audit the people who are doing that work in order to make sure that they're doing the right thing? So we're focusing on the actions and the results of the actions rather than the promises and the hopes and the dreams and the aspirations that are being presented and then, of course, discounted if the economy's bad or hyped up if they magically work for some reason. And by the way, if you throw enough spaghetti on the wall, some of the noodles will stick. It's a very expensive proposition, and it works very well for large corporations because they can't afford to waste a lot of money. But ultimately, when you're serving small businesses and medium-sized businesses, they need to have marketing that works. So I hope I've been helpful in the sense of setting up the reason why you should go through all the extra effort and headache and struggle to get clients that understand how to measure. It's no benefit to you if they can't measure what you're doing and know that it actually works. and also how to combat those dime a dozen agencies that come out there. Thousands and thousands of rank amateur copywriters that want to learn how to get clients and build their business and really are not as skilled as you are. But again, the skill alone doesn't get the results because the client can't tell the difference. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. I hope this hasn't been a depressing podcast. I really do want to make sure that you're on the right side of this thing rather than really leaving your customers out in the cold because you're selling them the fantasy rather than multiplying their money. Anyway, what we do here is we help you transform business relationships into profits. We help you deliver words that sell and just transform your clients into more profitable, more powerful organizations, and in turn build your agency. We take you from a freelance copywriter, a freelance marketer, and help you start building the structure in order to scale so that you can serve customers well, honorably, and profitably for all involved.